buckle up because today we're diving headfirst into a text that's captivated scholars and truth seekers for ages. The Book of Enoch.
A fantastic choice.
You know, it's kind of like getting a sneak peek behind the scenes of those traditional biblical stories we all know.
It really is.
Yeah.
And we've got two different translations to compare, which, trust me, makes it even more interesting. Seeing those different versions side by side just adds a whole other dimension.
And this isn't some dry, dusty text either.
Oh, no, not at all.
We're talking forbidden knowledge, rebellious angels, even those stories about giants, you know the ones.
The ones whispered about in hushed tones.
Exactly. And the Book of Enoch lays it all out there.
It doesn't hold back. It gives us this raw, unfiltered look into the beliefs and, honestly, the anxieties of the time. We're talking centuries before the Common Era, a period shrouded in mystery, and this text is like a beacon.
Shining a light on, well, giants, for one thing.
Right, and that's where the Watchers come in.
Okay, so back up a bit. For those of us who haven't cracked open the Book of Enoch lately, who are the Watchers, and what kind of chaos did they cause?
All right, picture this. Angels. Beings of pure light and power, right? But they get captivated, even obsessed, with the daughters of men.
Oh boy. This is where things get interesting.
To say the least. So they descend to Mount Hermon.
Which is already a pretty significant place in biblical history.
Oh, absolutely. Steeped in it. And it's there on Mount Hermon that they make a pact, a binding oath to take human wives.
Talk about a forbidden romance. But seriously, what were they thinking?
It's a transgression, a blatant breaking of divine law. And it sets off this chain of events that ripples throughout the whole text.
And that's where the giants come in, right? The Nephilim.
Precisely. And these aren't just some mythical creatures in the Book of Enoch. They're the offspring of this forbidden union.
So they're real, like actually walking the earth.
As real as the text makes them. And they're not depicted as some benign curiosity either. The Nephilim represent this cosmic contamination almost.
A contamination?
Yeah, it's like they embody the corruption that has seeped into humanity through this transgression. In fact, the text even blames them for increased violence, war, the spread of weapons.
It's like they become this focal point for all the anxieties of the time. Makes you wonder, were the giants a symptom of a deeper unrest? Or did their presence actually cause even more chaos?
It's a question worth pondering. But here's something I find fascinating. You know, both translations, even though they agree on this core narrative of the Watchers, they give slightly different names for their leaders.
Really?
It's true. It's a small detail, but telling, don't you think?
It's like getting two different accounts of the same scandal, each one adding its own spin. Why the variations, though? What do you make of that?
Well, it reminds us that even these ancient texts, often seen as static, unchanging, they were actually subject to interpretation and variation. Copied by hand, passed down through communities, each one adding their own understanding.
So it's like this ongoing conversation.
Exactly. And those seemingly small differences, they give us a glimpse into just how dynamic the transmission and interpretation of these stories really was.
So we've got these rebellious angels, their giant offspring causing mayhem, humanity's caught in the middle of this cosmic drama, and then there's Enoch.
Right. Enoch. This is where the book takes a fascinating turn, moving from the Watchers to Enoch's own incredible experiences. He's like our guide.
Our VIP backstage pass to heaven itself.
Exactly. We witness his ascent to heaven. But he's not just some passive observer. Enoch's an active participant in this cosmic drama.
And we're not talking about a peaceful stroll among the clouds. It's vivid, almost overwhelming descriptions of heaven, angels, divine judgment.
You have to remember, at the time this was written, apocalyptic literature was becoming more and more popular. These descriptions weren't just for entertainment. They were a way of processing very real anxieties about the future, about what was going to happen to humanity.
It's like those ancient tapestries that depict heaven and hell, full of symbolism and warnings, and honestly, a good dose of drama.
Oh, definitely.
But with the Book of Enoch, it's not a static image. We're right there with him. One translation even mentions fiery punishments, while another talks about the divine throne room.
And those differences in how they describe these things are really important. It shows us that it's not just a historical document. This is a work of theology. The way they describe these realms reflects how beliefs and interpretations were evolving in those communities that kept the Book of Enoch alive.
So it's almost like two different communities having a conversation through these different versions.
Exactly. But here's the thing. Despite the differences, they both agree that Enoch is front and center for the divine spectacle. He meets all kinds of angels, seraphim, cherubim. He gets a crash course in the structure of the
It's
heavens.
like he walked into a library of ancient wisdom, and the Book of Enoch is like this library card. So we've gone from those rebellious angels and their giant kids to Enoch taking this mind-blowing trip. But what's next? Does he come back down to Earth and just say, well, that was interesting?
Hmm.
Well, he does come back to Earth,
He does.
but something's changed. It's like he went on a backpacking trip across Europe, but instead of souvenirs, he's come back with cosmic knowledge.
I like that. He's definitely not the same Enoch who left. He's become this cosmic messenger, entrusted with knowledge that would make even the most skeptical scholar stop and think.
He's like the original whistleblower, except instead of corporate secrets, he's spilling the tea on the universe. But if this knowledge was meant to be shared, why didn't it become part of the traditional biblical canon?
The million-dollar question. And there's no easy answer. The development of the canon was this intricate process, influenced by so many things, theological debates, even political maneuvering. Everything was on the table.
So we can't just draw a line and say, this book's in, this book's out. It's more nuanced than that.
Exactly. It's like trying to put together a jigsaw puzzle where the pieces don't always fit neatly. But here's something to consider. Even though the Book of Enoch wasn't universally accepted into the biblical canon, its influence is undeniable.
Oh, definitely.
We find traces of it echoing through history in later texts. We even see it in the New Testament.
That's right. There's that line in the book of Jude that always sends chills down my spine. The one about the angels who abandoned their dwelling place, who didn't stay within their proper domain. It was like a direct reference to the Watchers in Enoch.
Exactly. And it shows how deeply these ideas from the Book of Enoch were woven into the religious landscape back then. Even if it wasn't considered scripture by everyone, people were still reading it, discussing it, debating it. It had an impact.
Which makes its lasting appeal even more fascinating. Hundreds of years later, we're still talking about it. Why do you think the Book of Enoch continues to fascinate us today?
I think it speaks to something timeless in the human spirit, this desire to understand good and evil, to grasp the nature of the divine, to comprehend our place in the universe. These are questions we're still asking. And the Book of Enoch, with its powerful imagery and thought-provoking stories, it offers this window into how people grappled with those very same questions thousands of years ago.
It's humbling, really,
It is.
to realize that we're not so different from those who came before us. Those shared hopes, fears, the desire to make sense of it all. It connects us.
Exactly. And maybe, just maybe, by immersing ourselves in these ancient texts, by listening to the voices of those who came before us, we can find new ways of understanding our own time.
What a journey this has been. We've unearthed forbidden knowledge, traveled through celestial realms, even questioned how sacred texts came to be.
And we've only just scratched the surface.
That's right. This deep dive has only been a taste. So if you're intrigued, I encourage you to explore the Book of Enoch for yourself. Dive into its pages, ask your own questions, see what you discover. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and as always, keep diving deep.